haven't seen much of it since. Oh, so we actually are going to see the Hunter out of Wilican, and you spoke of Barnes. He actually has included Barnes in this list. So we're going to see that Barnes starting off the day very early, and on the other end of the table, it's going to be that Resurrection Priest. So we're going to see what that deck can actually do, and if he's going to be able to sneak away with a win early on in this Conquest format.
I will be honest with you. I tested that deck a bit on ladder, and it didn't work that well. Resurrect is a bit random, and you can just lose if your opponent is pretty fast. And Hunter is definitely a fast deck that can bring a lot of aggression. But if you're able to stabilize, and looking at that hand from KingSlayer, he definitely has a chance.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he has the right toolkit to deal with what Wilican's going to be bringing early on. His early game is very strong. And there, you do see where he curves out. That's the top of his curve. That 8-drop Call of the Wild is really going to let him close out games. And he has quite a lot of pressure leading into that big turn at the end. But I kind of think KingSlayer might be able to deal with these early game minions.
Yeah, well, he will be playing, I think, now he has a decision. Do you want to use Shadow Word Pain already? Do you want to heal? Or do you want to play your injured Blade Master to start trading into those minions and maybe just bait your opponent into trading into your injured Blade Master and then just bring it back with Resurrect? Because he has double Resurrect already. But if he goes for the heal, he will be able to maybe coin Barnes next turn, or even Priest of the Feast to just have the big minion again. Yeah,
and Barnes can bring out some pretty crazy stuff here. So Barnes, one of the things it can bring out is Sylvanas, and the other really big guy is Ragnaros. So if it does whiff, it's not even going to be terrible. Like you said earlier last night when we were actually talking about how strong this card is, it's always at least a Yeti spread out over 2 cards.
Yeah.
It's going to be that 4-drop for a 4/5. Of course, so part of the body's a 1/1. But it could just have that upside of a crazy additional effect. And here comes Priest of the Feast. This is a new card, so if you're just seeing it for the first time, get ready for quite a bit of healing out of this guy.
It's also interesting that he decides to go for Priest of the Feast as the first card, because he will be able to bring it back with Resurrects. And this guy is healing a lot. It has great body, especially if you try to, like, from Hunter's perspective, it's so annoying that this 3/6. Like, do you really kill it? You know Priest is going to bring it back, so we have to ignore it. But if you ignore it, it just heals the Priest.
With KingSlayer going down this healing line, right? He's very much saying, okay, I am just going to deal with this Hunter's, all the aggression he's putting on into me early on by healing over and over again. Is that going to be enough, though? Because that does give Wilican enough time to actually come in and then drop Call of the Wild late, and then potentially overrun KingSlayer in the late game as well. How good do you think this Priest's late game actually is?
That's a very valid question. I think you have to stabilize before Call of the Wild comes, because if you have a board and if you're above 20 health, Call of the Wild will not be that dangerous. Yeah. But if you're losing till that point, Call of the Wild will just seal the game. So I think, like, it's an absolute necessity for the Priest right now to just get this game under control before Call of the Wild comes.
And here comes that first Barnes. I mean, it hasn't hit the table yet, but there it is. Wilican gonna drop it. Let's see what it actually brings out. It's gonna be that huge
It's a toad.
Yeah. Hey, it's a 1/1 that does an extra 1 damage somewhere.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, if you compare it to Yeti, as you said, right?
It's a better Yeti.
It's
a Yeti with the death rattle. So definitely not bad. Not as crazy as Barnes can get. And we're going to see another Barnes actually come out pretty soon from KingSlayer, I would think.
So what can you do here? If I see a really nice Pyromancer overall, because he will be able to clear the board. So that's an option for sure. You haven't lost a minion. Oh, you have lost a minion. So if you resurrect, you can actually bring 3/6. So maybe just go Pyromancer Resurrect, get a second Priest of the Feast, and this is just a crazy setup on the board.
Man, this is what that Priest can do. We talked about consistency. Not sure if that's going to be a consistent thing that we'll see from this deck throughout the day, but KingSlayer, safe to say, has stabilized, but Wilican going to come in with that Unleash the Hounds, try to contest the board just a little bit. He also has that quick shot, and he already has the bow attached, so he's going to be able to clear the board as well.
Yeah, he is able to clear the board, but what he's doing is something that he would not normally be doing. He is trading into minions. As a hunter, you want to go face. You want to just set up your opponent that you will be able to kill him pretty fast instead of just trading into minions. That's exactly what KingSlayer wanted. Yeah. And now he could just extend the board and play more minions.
It's one thing to note, too. Wilican's going to have a pretty awkward turn 7 right now, unless he draws into something like a high main.
Oh, you called it.
There it is. I say the cards and they appear. That high main's going to make that turn pretty great. It looked like it was going to be an awkward one, and now he can just go Call of the Wild, Call of the Wild. So moving into that late game, even though he did have to trade after KingSlayer stabilized, he's sitting in a position of power because when we look at KingSlayer's hand, it's not anything too scary.
Basically, there is no clear, no board clear. Like, he still has the Holy Smites, but that's not doing much against a full board of beasts. And that high main, I think, was key. If you just get like a Fiery Bat or a Huge Toad, it wouldn't do that much. But now, already having that big threat on board and then just following up with another big threat every turn, 8 and 9, is going to overpower KingSlayer, I believe.
And that's exactly how this mid-range Hunter list wants to work. It wants to just get stuff out onto the board and then make it in with this insane late game. And an interesting thing to note, you said, hey, KingSlayer doesn't have that much board clear in his hand right now. Part of that comes to the fact that you can't fit that much board clear into this shell of Priest because you just need to have stuff that makes Resurrect work. You need to get so many minions in there that there just isn't room for that premium removal that we know Priest can have. And there comes that first Call of the Wild, and okay, Smork. Oh no, he decides to actually trade that heifer out.
Just in case, like this was the strategy that is winning him the game, and from the very beginning he was trading the minions and trying to build up a board. But there is the Sylvanas from Barnes, and Wilican is not happy about it.
Look at that face. Very quickly, Barnes showing just how powerful he is and potentially being able to turn this match around.
Yeah, it definitely gives him a chance because we were really happy about Call of the Wild from Wilican, and Wilican was happy about it. But honestly, if KingSlayer deals with double Call of the Wild and that Hyman, and Hyman is already dealt with, what is left for Wilican? Like a second Hyman? Is he playing in his off in this list?
He is not playing in his off. That's one thing to note. The top of his curve is going to be Call of the Wild. And he has both of them in his hand, and he really, okay, let's say he goes in, clears up the Sylvanas. It's taking a good card either way.
Yeah, and imagine if KingSlayer would actually have a Pyromancer and a spell to be able to take one of the minions this turn.
Yeah, I mean, we could see a potential, we could just try to play around Sylvanas here and drop everything onto the board and just go Call of the Wild, Call of the Wild, but that seems like a pretty bad line.
It might be a necessity because, well, so
he'll push a lot of damage.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you can't deal with the card, you just go face and ignore the card. So if he goes into Sylvanas right now, he can just give an opponent a beast, which is not the best.
Well, so he's going to get that additional Leok, and he's going to get a Heifer if he goes Call of the Wild. So that is quite a bit of damage with the Leok and the Misha that are already on the board that can push face. And then he does have a kill command to follow up, and you know he's going to be weaving in that additional 2 damage throughout the rest of the game. But he decides to use Misha to actually trade here. Leok goes ahead, goes into that 1-1 Sylvanas that was brought out by Barnes. Is he going to use the kill command to kill this 4-1 Misha?
Yeah, he's still on the trading route and will continue trying to stabilize on board and hope there is nothing else to bring the minions back. But he is losing steam here. Like, he still has Call of the Wild in hand. But
by clearing the board here, he just put so much pressure on this 1-8 drop. Like, yeah, he's expecting Call of the Wild to completely close out the game, and KingSlayer now going to bring out that Onyx Bishop, another Priest of the Feast. He's going to be able to just keep healing up now and potentially even just trade out that next Call of the Wild. That's a 3-6 and a 3-4 on the board.
Yeah, oh man, I was just waiting for the Sylvanas to come out from the Bishop. I was like, he dealt with Sylvanas, he gets Bishop, and then if he gets Sylvanas again, it's just crazy. But still, this board is really good and really durable.
Yeah, don't hate me for it. Hunter may have wanted to smork just a little bit more here. He does have quite a big board established now, of course, by dropping that Call of the Wild, but
there is one big thing, though.
Yeah.
Priest is out of cards.
He definitely is out of cards right now, and this isn't the Priest that you're used to that can just completely refill its hand with a crazy combo. So he kind of is reliant on these 2 3-6 bodies and the 3-4. But once again, Wilican deciding just to continue to trade out time and time again. Huge Toad, last thing he has on the board. Is he going to trade it into that Onyx?
He definitely can consider that. That's 5 damage though, so if you go face, like both of those minions, they can't really, well, they will just die to Misha, but there is an Excavate the Evil.
What a top deck.
Yeah, that changes a lot actually.
That really changes a lot, because he has room to mess around with some of these healing spells as well. And there we go.
And heals as well.
That's a nasty effect, and you're seeing Wilican right now really not liking that card draw out of KingSlayer. Who top decks better at this point? We know that KingSlayer does have Ragnaros and Sylvanas still in his deck. Even though he already had that 1-1 Sylvanas out on the board, the actual copy of the card still in the cards that he has left. And this Hunter has played the top of his curve. Wilican's played 2 Call of the Wild, so the only other really major threat that lurks in the wings is going to be that Savannah Jaime.
Yeah, does he have any 5-drops maybe that can support him as well? Maybe one Tiger? I'm not sure. There is the Kindly Grandmother, but it will not do much. And also the hero power is cancelled by the hero power of Priest. So you can steady shot starting here every turn, but
the Priest with no cards is definitely going to be healing every turn. And the 1-1 Kindly Grandmother does not trade well with that Pyromancer. I mean, it's... Okay, so Onyx Bishop going to come out again.
Oh man, another Priest of the Feast.
Oh, man.
It's the 6th?
So what do you think of this deck? I mean, just we talked about consistency a little bit. Do you think it's going to be consistent? I mean, this was an incredible showing of this new Priest deck. It looks like he may be able to just kind of run away with the game here. He's going to be able to trade out on both of these cards. Can he clear the 4-2 as well that's going to come out of Kindly Grandmother? There's the flash heal.
Yeah, the flash heal basically ends the game in a way.
He heals him for 8, and then he's going to heal for another 2. That's going to be 10, and now he just has to trade off the 3-2. That's pretty nasty board state coming out of KingSlayer, just considering the fact that he's going to be healing all day long.
So what I think I have to wonder if trading into minions was a good strategy to begin with, because this is basically what KingSlayer wanted. KingSlayer was like, sure, don't go face, just trade into my board. I'll bring it back. I'm a Resurrection Priest. So Wilican, I think, got trapped, and also that Sylvanas was really key with Barnes in that very moment where Wilican had an advantage. He would be able to press damage and go face and probably set up himself to win the game. But he decided to still continue trading and just lost steam there. So a couple of things happened in this matchup that really favored KingSlayer. But overall, I would still favor Hunter, just looking at this game.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's say KingSlayer takes this, which is pretty safe to say, considering he even has the 1 already next to his name on your HUD. So he takes this game. Now, we're going to no longer see that Resurrection Priest.
Oh, look at this. There's the X-Code with the evil.
Wow. Wow. All right. What could happen to bring it back into this game? Unleash the Hound's not going to do anything here.
There's still a Ragnaros, and there's still Sylvanas.
In KingSlayer's deck.
Yeah,
Houndmaster,
exactly.
Houndmaster just come down as bodies, and they're not going to really accomplish much. That Excavated Evil has also been returned to KingSlayer's deck, so pretty easy board state to deal with. Definitely an out there. And we're going to see the draw come in from this Priest right now, and that's another dead card. So he's going to be buying a little bit more time here, but he's definitely sitting very healthy at 26. Like you said, these 2 hero powers going to be canceling out, and now this Houndmaster is actually going to be able to achieve some value and get 2 minions on the board out of the range of Excavated Evil. So,
but then KingSlayer actually has Shadow Word Death to be able to deal with the 5/5, and he will be able to create more Hounds.
And there's the Holy Nova. Yeah. So the Holy Nova, not going to be able to completely clear up the board, but like you said, he can use, for 3 mana, just get rid of that Infested Wolf. It's going to turn into 2 1/1s, clear that with Holy Nova, and he also gets the additional value out of Unleash the Hound, so he actually can clear off the board. So, yeah, it looks like KingSlayer has clinched this one up, but that means Wilican is going to need to win with this Hunter deck against the Cthulhu Warrior or the Yogg Druid if he wants to take this series. How do you think this Hunter deck, having seen it, actually will fare against the Cthulhu Warrior and the Yogg Druid, especially if we see Wilican come out and play again just trying to trade?
I think like Cthulhu Warrior should be fine, because Cthulhu Warrior often has trouble dealing with Hunter, and specifically now with Kindly Grandmother as well. Deferral minions are really tough to deal with, and especially when you're sitting on a brawl and you want to kind of reduce the damage on board by brawling and you only increase it. Yeah, it can happen against Hunter.
Yeah. And we talked about the other big problem with Death Rattle minions as a warrior facing them is, okay, I have a weapon. I'm going to trade out. Oh, the Death Rattle minion.
Look at this cute play.
Oh, so cheeky. There's the Entomb. There's the Holy Nova. There's the heal.
He buffed the Kindly Grandmother to not kill it, to not increase the damage on board.
But that was exactly what you were saying. Sometimes they just increase the damage on board by actually killing the minion. So now he's only going to be taking 3, going to be healing for 2, and we're just going to see KingSlayer wait to try to draw one of the bombs that he has in his deck. He hasn't hit him yet. He's hitting the Entombs. He's hitting the Excavated Evil, but that kit will allow him to just kind of stay in the game longer. Wilican not happy drawing that deadly shot.
He's still dealing damage. It's 1 damage a turn, but it's something, and KingSlayer is at 11. He has a deadly shot for something big, and
yeah, I mean, he can deadly shot the Rag. So the Rag's definitely going to put out 8 damage somewhere. The Hunter doesn't have any healing, so it's going to be a coin flip when that Rag comes out. If it hits the 1/1, he can push through for additional damage and clear the Rag. Sylvanas, on the other hand, is actually harder for him to deal with. It won't necessarily do the damage right off the bat, but there's Animal Companion. That's a little bit more gas for him to work with.
That's a Huffer. That's more damage again.
Yeah, they
slowly... he is dealing that damage.
Could Wilican come back? He's holding his hands over his face right now. There's the flash shield. That's going to slow him down just a little bit here. And what's the play here? He's actually going to decide to clear the entire board. Shadow Word Pain, Excavated Evil going to do that just fine. Savannah Highmane remains the major out for Wilican to win this game.
There's an Entomb just waiting for that.
Yeah, there totally is. So that's about it. I mean, he also has the Priestess cycle through cards a little bit quicker, so the threats going to come out quicker. And KingSlayer has seen his deck before, so he knows to hold on to the Entomb. Not going to blow it on a 4/4 or anything like that. He's going to wait for that 6/5 with that nasty Death Rattle.
It's so interesting, though, because right now we have a Misha, and you don't want to Entomb the Misha, because then the Highmane can come, and you will not be able to Entomb the Highmane. But on the other hand, like, you can't really let the Misha be on board. You have to Entomb it, because if there is a... I think we've seen double kill command. We've seen 1 quick shot. Not sure if there is a second quick shot in the deck, but KingSlayer is, slowly running out of resources himself.
There's an Infested Wolf. That's not a bad card for him to draw as well. And I actually thought that KingSlayer would try to hold on just a little bit longer to that Entomb, because if a Highmane comes out right now, the answers are going to be very limited. There's a Holy Nova. Not going to be too strong here. He could, in theory, clear the board, but I definitely don't see him taking that line. It'd be pretty absurd if he went for that.
You have to think about what is he playing against? What does he think Wilican still has in hand? So you can probably assume Deadly Shot and Unleash the Hounds, but maybe Quick Shot as well, so that's like extra damage.
Well, he knows that they're going to be reactive cards, because we've seen Wilican hold on to these cards for quite a few turns. So he's actually going to go with that line to clear the board. It's not bad, because it also does really reduce the top decks that Wilican can have here. And there we go. He draws that Excavated Evil. That's going to be a dead card. He just pushes through for that 2 damage. That KingSlayer can just heal back up. And there's that Sylvanas.
But there's a
Deadly Shot is actually great here.
Yeah.
I was a few turns ago, about 3 turns ago, Deadly Shot did not look good against that Sylvanas, so he's just going to clear that up here and then go in with that Harjant Horse Rider. I think is probably the best line of play, and there isn't a response in KingSlayer's hand to that line.
Yeah, Horse Rider is also nice, because if Ragnaros comes, it will be able to get a hit on the Divine Shield if you actually hit the minion. So we can just continue being damaged. So this means like Deadly Shot here, plus 4 damage, putting Priest on 9 health. With Ragnaros, you'll be able to heal, but if Ragnaros is the last card, like, those guys are slowly running out of cards in their decks at the very moment.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens when you just trade 1-for-1 back and forth with no draw mechanics in either of the decks. There's the Entomb. Now, this one, do you think he's going to hold on to it?
Nah, he's just using it. There's only 5 health left for Wilican, so if you get a 2-1...
Yeah, Wilican wants to keep the board a little bit busy here, but there's the Savannah Highmane, and this is the first time I've seen Wilican look happy in a little while. His hands were just covering his face for a minute there, and now a little bit of relief, but he's not out of the woods yet. There's the Misha, and there, of course, we are going to see the Shadow Word Death clear up the first half of that card, and those two hyenas are going to have to trade into Misha here.
Yeah, unless he gets something else, but... that does clear the board. Another Excavated Evil. Oh, man.
Do you play the Unleash the Hounds here to just keep a 1/1 body on the board and actually continue to just chip in the 1 damage? If the Ragnaros comes out, I think you have to.
You have
because
to,
if Ragnaros comes out next turn, it's like, hey, it's not an incredible... At this point in the game, you have to say, okay, I know there are a lot of ways I can lose, but what are the ways I can win? And it looks like just pushing in for that 1 additional damage each turn is the primary way to victory. Here we see that lone hound charging off into the night. Gideon up. KingSlayer,
will be enough.
Do you have an answer for 1 damage per turn?
There's only 2 cards left. There is a Horse Rider, and I believe Ragnaros then, it is the last card. If Ragnaros is actually in the deck.
Ragnaros, yeah, because he already played the Misha that he entombed.
Are you sure there is Ragnaros in the deck, though?
I am I am pretty sure when I looked at his deck he had a Ragnaros. I could check right now, but let's let Lady Fate show us the last card in KingSlayer's deck. All right, there's an Excavated Evil, so he is actually making the draws a little bit worse. I mean, the Excavated Evil could kill the huge toad, which would turn into another 1 damage into KingSlayer.
Almost out of cards.
There's that Ragnaros, 50-50. Can KingSlayer take the win here? We will see in just a few seconds once he passes this turn.
And that goes to the frog.
That is a super dead frog. That frog is definitely dead, and Argent Squire not going to be enough.
It's something. It actually can take damage.
It could. The Divine Shield could take the 8 damage here. But the Excavated Evil is going to come out yet again. Do you Excavated Evil here? It's not. It doesn't really accomplish much. Oh man,
he's still alive.
Rag raging on these minions right now. Abusive Sergeant going to make that Rag just a little bit worse and allow this Argent Squire to push through for 3 damage.
Yeah, but that will be it with Excavated Evil. Even though you're taking 1 fatigue damage, this came down to the fatigue, and this is awesome. Like, you Excavated Evil here and just kill your opponent. But this was so close.
Definitely a good way to start off the series too, seeing every potential card that these decks could play, because we're going to see a lot more of this deck from Wilican moving forward. This is Conquest, even though the players are only bringing 3 decks instead of bringing 4 and having 1 ban. So we're actually gonna see which decks these players decide to bring. So if you're Wilican right now, do you bring out that Hunter again, going into the Warrior and Druid, which KingSlayer have?
I think you can. Even though your opponent's seen the whole deck, you're like, sure, I've lost that one, but I still feel good about my matchup against Warrior versus Druid, Hunter. It's probably close to 50-50.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last night. We got in pretty late last night, and we looked at the deck list, and we were just relaxing, talking about him. I actually favor Hunter against Druid a little bit. I just think Hunter can get stuff on the board that the age-old problem for Druid is, how do I deal with a board that I've fallen behind on? So you can get in scenarios like that as the Hunter where you get ahead, and then Savannah Highmane just plays so well against the toolkit that Druid actually has. But the thing with Druid, and the reason that I think you're a little bit more on the 50-50 side, is it's better at filling up the board now, especially against Hunter with this this token variant that Yogg has allowed them to play.
Yeah,
and
if you get like early Fandral or Violet Teacher with like Innervates, it's really hard for Hunter to deal with that board, and Druid just trades into your board and starts going face.
And it also, it like snaps back very quickly now. You could deal with the Druid's board, and then they're like, oh, Whisper of the Old Gods, I'm full again. Onyxia, I'm full again. So this deck, actually, KingSlayer's list, does not play Onyxia, but it plays 2 copies of Wisps of the Old Gods.
Yeah, also it's important to think about the new cards, which is Arcane Giant and Kindly Grandmother. They do change the matchup a bit, but this is not the matchup we're going to see. Hunter again versus Cthulhu Warrior.
It would be huge for KingSlayer if he could win this one.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying that you definitely do favor the Hunter going into this matchup. So if KingSlayer can manage to pull this one off, he puts himself in a really good place for the rest of the series. Wilican going to open up with that huge Toad, and he does have a pretty strong curve moving forward. He can play another huge Toad on the next turn, and he can also buff up one of them with the Houndmaster. But we're going to see that Fiery Wind Axe come out from KingSlayer, clearing up the board. Taking 1 additional damage, that's going to be 4 damage into him. Right out of the gates.
KingSlayer has an amazing hand. Like mostly when you play versus any deck as the Cthulhu Warrior, you want to have those Cthulhu Cultists and Cthulhu buff cards to be able to get value from Veclor and get value from Ancient Shieldbearer. Here he has 4 of them, so he will be able to play board early. Plus, with Disciple of Cthulhu, he will be able to respond to minions, not to mention fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, especially Huge Toad too. He can respond to that very easy with the Disciple, but he chooses not to actually go that line. What do you think of him trading out the War Axe here instead of just going Disciple of Cthulhu? I mean, you do potentially trade the Disciple of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do like this.
More,
yeah, he curves out very well here. And that is a sticky minion that's hard to deal with and will also allow him to trade on the board very well. And now we're actually at the point where Wilican's hand starts to get a little bit awkward. He can use the Deadly Shot here, which does clear up a very sticky minion, but he's passing priority to KingSlayer. So KingSlayer did have the coin starting second, but now he has priority on the board as well. He's going to be able to play that minion, and that will attack before Wilican's minions can attack. And there we do see that 2-3 come on out. Armor up from KingSlayer. Cthulhu getting bigger and bigger, an imminent threat.
Yeah, KingSlayer is in a really good position. Not only has he has priority, but also just a follow-up. He has Execute for something big if it comes up. He has Activator in form of Disciple of Cthulhu. He has Sylvanas as a good answer to Savannah Hymen later in the game, plus Shield Block, just to get that armor if he gets Shield Slam at some point, or just the health that he needs. And Wilican, as you said, it's a really awkward situation. He gets a Wanderer, but this is not the beast he wanted. Like, if he would get something like Fiery Bat, he doesn't have it in deck, I believe, right? We haven't seen any Fiery Bats.
He has one copy of Fiery Bat, I believe?
One copy of Fiery Bat, maybe possibly there was one.
I'm trying to remember if we actually saw one come out last game, because we didn't see all of the cards.
We did see all of the cards.
No, we didn't see all of the cards.
I think there was an Excavated Evil as the last card.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, I think
so he might have a Fiery Bat, he might not, but
that was a long game.
We're also seeing KingSlayer just really flaunt the power. Okay, so now definitely getting a little bit stronger here, trading very efficiently onto the board, and that 3-3 is going to stick, and then when the 3-3 dies, it's going to turn into a 3-2, and on top of the 4-3, but we are seeing an incredible hand out of KingSlayer, and it just goes to show how incredible this new variant of Control Warrior really is. It has a way to close the game, which Control Warrior never had. Now that Cthulhu exists, you just go into crazy turns like coin. He doesn't have the coin anymore, but like you can coin out like Bran and then go Cthulhu and just like win the game. Like there are ways for this deck to just explosively close that's never had before, while during the early game it just trades minions out.
Yeah, but even beside that, I think like the cards that really shine in this deck are the Ancient Shieldbearers and Emperor Veclor, if you play them on 7 or later in the game. And I agree with Sylvanas here, by the way, because this board is it will not trade well into Sylvanas, so you will probably have to ignore Sylvanas as a Hunter player.
Well, what do you think about playing Barnes and just hoping that you whiff on the Barnes and then go for that 25% chance to just give them a 1-1 here? I feel like that might be the strongest line.
So, yeah, that is a line for sure, but you have to think about, as a Hunter, can I actually rush my opponent down? Because he does have Kill Command and Quickshot in hand. And if you think I can't deal with Sylvanas, I play Barnes, and then I just go face with the rest of the damage. Oh, well, there are options. Like, if you whiff, you can think about trading, but then I don't like losing that much damage to just the 5-5. So it seems like he will be going for face. Like, your opponent is at 26 at the moment. If there is no Shield Bearer, you probably have a chance to just rush your opponent down, especially because that's originally your plan. Like, you just want to deal as much damage as possible and finish the game with Call of the Wild.
Wilican
is a really hard turn.
Yeah, this is a hard turn, especially coming after a loss too. He definitely has to make sure he keeps his head clear. And you see right now KingSlayer just nodding, very confident, looking at his hands and actually looking at the damage that's coming out onto the board. Of course, using that shot from the Hunter right now, that hero power over and over again. And look, 2 powerful 7-drops that are activated. He can either just drop the taunt here, which would mitigate quite a lot of damage, trades very well onto the board, especially being backed up by Sylvanas, but also having that shield bearer, getting a little bit extra armor, and then trading that Sylvanas out.
I think, yeah, I'm looking for a way to not play the 7-drop actually this turn. Like, maybe you can go into attack, execute, and play shield block.
Okay.
Like, so, yeah, exactly. I think I like that more. Because like 7-drops, they look really good on this turn overall, but then with the shield block, you can use shield slam effectively and keep the board as it is. And also, I just want to talk about quickly, like, he didn't play Barnes like Wilican last turn because he was afraid of the brawl. If you overextend, if you play too many minions, and with Sylvanas on board, yes, Sylvanas is awkward against your board, but if there is Sylvanas and the brawl, you just lose everything you have.
Cheeky little play coming in, Disciple of Cthulhu going to polish off Sylvanas, and instead of just killing that 4-3, now he is going to take control of it. Wilican having that Barnes, an Eaglehorn bow, and a quick shot in hand. Barnes, let's see who you can bring out onto the stage right now. Is it going to be enough?
That's the fire bat we mentioned.
It does have that fiery bat, and hey, it's still it's pretty strong.
Deals
It's a
1
1/1. It deals an extra 1 damage.
It's not a high main, but it's not a Houndmaster. Houndmaster will not do anything.
Definitely not going to be a high main, but we've seen Wilican get above, I would say probably above average Barnes, but KingSlayer really showed just the strength of that card in the last match. Of course, this is the first time we're seeing it in tournament play, but we're going to look at KingSlayer's side of the table right now, and it looks like he may play the Emperor out at this turn. We're seeing him float over it just a little bit here, trading in the 2/1.
I like
the
Emperor.
Fiery Bat. Yeah, I like Emperor here a lot. I mean,
I would consider as well, yeah, Shield Slam to just clear the board, play Emperor, have a really good board. And if there is a high main being played, you still can deal with the high main with the go, execute, and then just running into the to-dos. But there is no high main now. Quick shots to draw a card. It's really hard where that quick shot comes. Yeah, I guess you go into the minion because you need to win the board, but you have no card draw. So
this is one of the things that we do see Cthulhu Warrior do very well too. I mean, it just like it clears out, it trades very well, and then it still has some resources left, right? I mean, at this point in the game, he's 1 for 1 time and time again. That Ravaging Bull looking absolutely incredible here. Going to clear up the board nice and easy. Cthulhu gets a little bit bigger with that Beckoner of Evil. But yeah, we've just seen KingSlayer. He's been able to answer every threat that Wilican put down. And now he has a giant threat of his own that looks like it should be able to close out the game next turn.
Yeah,
we're actually going to see Wilican come
over.
on in with Concede. So quite a long road ahead of Wilican if he wants to come back here. He still does need to pick up a win with that Hunter deck. You were saying that you really did favor the Hunter deck going up against the Warrior, but now he has to win with that Hunter deck against the Druid deck.
It is possible. As you said, I believe it's a 50-50, but you said Hunter actually has a slight advantage.
I thought that Hunter had a slight advantage, but one thing that I didn't think about that I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about is actually a card that we already mentioned today, and that, of course, is going to be the Arcane Giant. That may make the matchup a little bit worse for the Hunter. So that's a brand new card. If you haven't actually seen it yet, it cost 12 mana originally for an 8/8, but every spell that you cast throughout the game, regardless of if it's in your hand, is going to make the card cost 1 less. And Yagg Druid really does like to cast the spells, but Wilican making a smart play here if he does want to pick up a win. He's going to go in with that Zoo Warlock, which has traditionally performed very well against Druids, and he knew KingSlayer has to win with the Druid here to win this Conquest format.
Yeah, so this is a good matchup, as mentioned. Wilican is trying to get a couple of wins before he faces Hunter versus Druid. He hopes he will be able to just 3-0 KingSlayer on the Druid list, which is possible. It happened in the past, but I believe it will be tough. And
it will be tough.
It will definitely be tough.
He has perfect knowledge, though. Like you said, all the players have seen the other players' deck list, but one of the big things with the way that Druid has evolved in Whispers of the Old Gods, and even moving forward into Karazhan, different people play the deck very differently. So maybe if he goes in with these few decks that he does have the upper hand with, he can get a feel for what KingSlayer really does like to do. We've seen KingSlayer's style today. He really has looked pretty impressive. He's made some really smart plays, lines that are not evidently apparent to a lot of players. So figuring out how he likes to actually approach this Druid deck may give Wilican that little piece of knowledge that he needs to actually come out and 3-0.
Also, even though you know the decklist of the Druid, it's hard to predict the card specifically because of the Raven Idol, because of Yoxaron. So that deck can still surprise you, even though you know the list. And KingSlayer right now, he has double swipe in hand, which is amazing versus Zoo. Makes a play here to just throw away Fandral in a way. Just place Fandral to prompt an attack into it, to force Wilican to just waste damage on Fandral, which is actually another waste. Like you have to deal with Fandral.
Yeah, I mean, even though KingSlayer had nothing in hand that actually would get value out of Fandral, not really a risk most players will take. And KingSlayer knows, especially after playing against Wilican all day, Wilican's respected some cards a little too much, trading in places where it wasn't necessarily the best line, at least in my opinion. So playing a card like that does command so much respect with the way Wilican plays, definitely going to see him clear that. And now KingSlayer, of course, does have that second swipe, and Wilican, pretty much whatever he does play is going to fall victim to that. And KingSlayer, as he plays more and more spells, that swipe's just going to make that Arcane Giant that much cheaper.
Yeah, also like a second swipe will be deadly because normally you don't really play around the second swipe. Just looking at Wilican's hands, he is going to get hurt by the second swipe. The only good thing is that he has still Forbidden Ritual, so even after the second swipe, he will be able to fill the board again. But this turn, well, if you look at it, like the obvious thing to do is play the Juggler, play Abusive, and just go face with everything you have. But he was probably considering life tap as well. He's running low on resources, and if there is this second swipe, he knows this board is going to be wiped.
Yeah, I would have really actually liked that out of him if he did go for the life tap. There's the swipe going to clear off Wilican's board for KingSlayer, and he can actually play the Arcane Giant on next turn if he wants to. I mean, he's actually in a position where it's pretty easy to play it because, it's. Or wait, did he use the Innervate? So he decided to use the Innervate here. He can no longer play it next turn, but he has a Mire Keeper, which is going to just make his board pretty strong. 3/3 and a 2/2 do hit the board. That's going to trade against Forbidden Ritual pretty well.
Yeah, this situation is quite bad for Wilican. Suddenly, normally, again, this matchup is good for Zoo, and Wilican should have an upper hand, but just looking at how this board looks like, with the Savage Roar, KingSlayer will be able to just clean the board again. Oh, wow, this is also a pretty good card to get.
Yeah, I mean, Wisps are going to trade very well into all the 1/1s, but the one thing to mention, that's going to make that Sea Giant pretty much free.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
He does get that 8/8 out, and he's gonna life tap, play the Imp Gang boss as well.
Play everything.
Yeah, it's
going to be
play your entire hand. Not an easy trade either, but we do know that the Savage Roar is going to be there for KingSlayer, and that's going to be quite a bit of damage.
So that's 7, 14 plus 6, 20 damage, 21 with the hero power, so not there yet. If he kills, even less.
I do want to confirm that Nimsh just did all of that without a calculator, and I'm pretty impressed.
It's super easy to calculate Savage Roar, actually. Basically, what you do, you count the number of targets you have for Savage Roar and then multiply it. So let's say we have 6 targets now, so Savage Roar is 12 damage. Plus then the board.
Yeah, that's easy. Math. I always play with my iPhone open on a calculator. I'm like, yeah, I have lethal. Let's go. We're looking at this board right now from KingSlayer. He's got 5 of those Wisps on the board, which he can hit with Savage Roar. And that brings the Arcane Giants down to 6 mana, so he's not going to have quite enough to cast them, but he can use the Shapeshift to polish off that Abusive Sergeant. And yeah, he's going to get rid of the Sea Giant nice and easy, leaving just an Imp Master, or sorry, an Imp Gang boss on the board.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you will have those Giants, and Zoo normally has no way to deal with the Giants. So whenever you play something big, like that's why people played Onyxia before. When you play Onyxia on turn 9 versus Zoo, just Zoo can't do much about it with all the Whelps and the 8/8.
And also, we already did see one of the cards that sometimes does allow Zoo to deal with it is, of course, Power Overwhelming, and Wilican's already used one of those. So he used it early on his Possessed Villager to trade out against the Fandral.
But the game is not over yet, and as we mentioned, Zoo has an advantage. Wilican is drawing 2 cards a turn. And if he gets something to do with the first Giant, maybe he will find that damage. Like a 3/2 Panther makes sense. Just build up a board to threaten Wilican and his health total. He is getting lower. He's already at 15. But
Wilican has 2 Doom Guards as well. That is the variant that he is playing. So we could potentially see a Doom Guard. Doesn't really stack up too well against this board, though, because Arcane Giant, they trade into that very well. But there we go.
Defender of Argus was a great draw because not only he is able to deal with the Panther with the Divine Shield, but just go face while defending himself.
This mulch is actually pretty good here. So potentially see the mulch onto the 4/3, trade the 8/8 into the 2/2, and then drop another Arcane Giant, and then you're threatening lethal there.
Yeah, definitely. This is really tough. He would need like another. If he gets another Defender of Argus, he can probably win this, but without Defender of Argus, it will be tough to deal with this
Defender essentially allows him to stall, and then draw his Doom Guards. Voidwalker, also a good draw here because that's mitigating 8 damage.
Yeah, that's really risky. I mean, like, can you tap? You can still tap, I believe, because if you stop one of the Giants, you're still going to survive.
You have to tap here. I mean, you can try to play around everything that KingSlayer has in his deck right now, but if you do, you don't win. So I think right now is the time to just kind of go headlong into this. He can actually fill out the board here and get the Reliquary Seeker out, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. That's actually pretty good.
That's really strong.
So it seems like this game will actually rely on the last card drawn by KingSlayer. Like if KingSlayer draws anything that deals with the 1/3 or that deals 1 damage, he wins.
Yeah, I mean, really, all right. So this is not typically, when you have 2 8/8s on your side of the table, you don't typically want to play that Yogg, but
if your opponent has 2 health,
2 health, looks like you got to do it, and it can also clear the board here, which will protect that 9 damage. It's time to praise Yogg. First Yogg of the day, Healing Light coming on out, followed up by an Earthshock, where you keep track of how many spells are cast.
Oh man, this is.
Uh-oh.
Buffing your opponent's minions is not good, and Fireball to your own face is not good as well.
Not looking good.
Too much.
Look at Wilican's face right now.
Anything could happen with Yogg-Saron on board. There is a secret, and that will be it. I think it's not, like, whatever secret that is.
Yeah, you can't win.
Yeah,
so
you can't win.
Wilican's going to pick up that first game, and it was looking grim for him, and then it started to turn around. Honestly, the turning point was just being able to stall with that Defender of Argus, and then going into the Voidwalker after that. There was 16 damage on board, and he just managed to block it with pennies. I mean, that's great.
I just love matches where, as casters, we say, yeah, this is a good matchup for the deck. And then, even though like the deck that is has a bad matchup seems to be on in a good position, like in the end you see like, yep, Zoo had it. Zoo had it. And like many times I've been casting Zoo versus Druid, like you really think Zoo lost, and then somehow just the game ends and Zoo wins in the end.
Yeah, that's the reason that we've seen Zoo just over and over again, because it can find those little weird ways. As long as it's chipping in damage early on with its 1 drops, its 2 drops, its 3 drops, it can close out a game explosively, just filling out that board just so late into the game. And now we're actually going to see the Druid Mirror matchup. So both of these guys are playing the Yogg Token Druid variant, but there are some notable differences. Wilican does have the Onyxia, which we mentioned, and you've already seen KingSlayer's deck. He's running 2 Wisps of the Old Gods.
Yeah, so he's more the Wisps player, where Wilican is playing the more standard no Wisp double. Is he playing double Ancient of War?
No, both of them each have 1 Ancient.
1 Ancient of War. Is there scenarios for Wilican?
I don't think either of them are running scenarios.
Okay, so both playing Onyxia?
But both, no. Only Wilican is running Onyxia, and I actually believe KingSlayer, because he has the 2 Wisps of the Old Gods, is actually playing. I think he's playing 2 Savage Roars.
I think probably 1.
You think he's just?
Yeah, I think Wilican is not playing any Savage Roar in his deck, and then KingSlayer is playing
I know that KingSlayer has 1 more Savage Roar, but I'm not sure if that means he has 1 or if it means he has 2.
I think
he has 1. So playing 2 is a little bit greedy. I actually do that. I like rolling them dice. But we're seeing a pretty strong start from KingSlayer. He's going to get the spell count up right out of the gates, getting 2 1/1s onto the board, trying to take the board early, because that is a very good win condition in the Druid Mirror matchup. Just getting bodies onto the board, making the other Druid have to answer. And looking at Wilican's hand, he does have quite a few ways to answer, and he's ramping very efficiently, getting out that Azure Drake.
Yeah, in the moment, I think the game is pretty equal. I will even get slight advantage to Wilican, but I agree with what you said. Like, it's important to deal damage in this matchup, because if your opponent is low in endgame, it weakens his Yogg-Saron, and it also like strengthens your own Yogg-Saron. Yogg-Saron is normally dealing damage to players with the spells like Hellfires and some Fireballs. So if you, let's say you play your own Yogg-Saron, you're at 5 health, your opponent is at 15. You have a really good chance to kill yourself. Yeah. If it's reversed, if your opponent is at 5, you're at 15, you have a really good chance to kill your opponent with Yogg-Saron. So, like, basically just whoever is at higher health total has a better chance to win when Yogg-Saron shows up.
Yeah, Yogg-Saron's a really interesting card, right? It traditionally will clear the board. And then when we talked about it last night, it's like, what is good about Yogg? It's like, well, it's traditionally going to clear the board and allow you to reset. And it's going to draw you a lot of cards.
Yeah,
those are the 2 things that it usually does. And then the damage tends to be a little bit random. So there's that extra price tag on Yogg that you may not think of initially, that just like, you kind of need a little bit of health when you're praying to that guy, and chuck a little bit to the Old God, and now taking a peek back at the board. Wilican, of course, having 2 Azure Drakes down. What do you think KingSlayer is going to do here to try to take this board back?
So just playing a lot of 1/1s is one way to do it, to try to do it, and hope there is no swipe. But if there is a swipe, you're in such a bad spot.
KingSlayer's managed to get more spells out over the course of the game, and he's gonna follow suit with that once again, playing those 1/1s with Wisps of the Old Gods, and he's really fueling his Giants here. Wilican is also playing 2 of the Giants, but he hasn't gotten quite as many spells out here. He's going to start doing that with the Violet Teacher right now, clearing off the board. This is starting to look pretty commanding for Wilican, though.
Yeah, Wilican has. It's really hard to clear the board as Druid, and if you don't have mana for your Throng, so I don't really see a good chance for KingSlayer to come back this turn. Like Ancient of War even wouldn't be that good. Another Wisps is not going to do much. So basically, with no Innervate, he can't play Yogg. So there is no way to deal with this board at all. And there is also a buff because there is Power of the Wild. He can still deal damage with Living Roots. So Wilican has this game, I believe.
So Wilican doesn't have lethal though right now, correct? So maybe in this position you play the Mire Keeper for ramp?
Doesn't he actually have lethal next turn? So like if you on board, right? On board there's what, like 10, 13, 14 damage. So he's free off. Like looking at his hand.
Which he does have because he has Power of the Wild too.
Yeah, and
yeah. I was trying to figure out if there was a line that you could see Mire Keeper and then try to pray to Yogg next turn, but it does not look like KingSlayer is going to have a chance for any prayers. Wilican looking to close this game out here. Living Roots going face, buff those minions, and giddy on up. Yeah, so we are seeing Wilican now tying this up 2-2. It's going to be that Hunter deck versus Druid.
That Hunter that failed him 2 times before, so.
Not a commanding position to be in for Wilican. He's probably a little bit on edge here. But having whipped on the deck twice, isn't that how probability works? Isn't it better this time?
You know, like honestly, the situation is really even because KingSlayer also whiffed on Druid 2 times already. Yep. And Wilican is coming into that 5th game with like, hey, I just defeated your Druid 2 times in a row. I'm just taking my Hunter now and going to defeat you again.
That's science. That's science.
It's like something that's there's always a talk in the pro player community. Is it worth it? Because a lot of people say it doesn't matter if you end up in the 5th game with the bad matchup, but it's all about the mindset, right? Like, do you approach if your opponent won 2 games? Do you want to play the worst matchup against him, where he is in a position, hey, I'm just winning, I'm just totally winning this match, and just have him on a high horse in a way, or do you want to just kind of humiliate him with the other matches and end up in that 5th game with advantage on your side?
Yeah, and it's so important, especially in a game like Hearthstone. I mean, you need to be so mentally clear, and we're all human. If you can manage to get the other person in an uncomfortable position, they might sequence a turn wrong. They may miss a line.
Exactly.
Like, there are so many things that can go wrong. But this is the strongest hand that we've seen Wilican enter into with this Hunter deck. But, of course, on the other side of the table, KingSlayer does have that Wild Growth, which is a pretty good sign going into the start of a game as Druid.
Yeah, Fandrel as well. So KingSlayer has some tools. Wilican probably would love to have a different 2-drop, though. I mean, like, a 2-drop. Either a Toad or the Kindly Grandmother to be able to have even more pressure, because the dream for Wilican will be to curve out perfectly into Highmane, into Call of the Wild, and seal the game right there, and then just use skill commands to be able to deal with the board. But at the moment he doesn't have it. KingSlayer, on the other hand, is not going for Wild Growth yet, just dealing with the bat to deal with that pressure. He knows he will be able to Wild Growth next turn, and then on turn 3 he will have 4 mana. He will be able to go for Fandrel as the free 5 to draw to just bait out removal or damage.
Yeah, there's a 3-drop which he already did have, and like you said, I mean, the main objective of mid-range Hunter is to curve out. It wants to play a very linear game and just continue to drop stuff onto the board, pressure the other guy to respond to those, and then curve out, drop the Call of the Wild, drop those high mains. But there's a Heifer, and it's going face. So KingSlayer going into the next turn, he does have the swipe. He does have Fandrel, and with how Wilican plays, he would definitely, I think it's almost known that he would, if he didn't have anything in hand, he would go Heifer, Argent Squire into the Fandrel. He respects that card quite a bit, but we know he has other ways to deal with that card.
He has Deadly Shot. So overall, the Heifer was a really good pick for Wilican, because and only he deals damage on that turn. If KingSlayer goes for Fandral, which makes sense, like from KingSlayer's perspective, he will run, like you can't leave Fandral, so he will have to attack with Hafer into the Fandral. But we know better, we know there is Deadly Shot, so Hafer will be able to go to face again, and maybe even again. So KingSlayer makes a really good call that there is a possibility to maybe remove Fandral with leaving Hafer on board, and he uses it swipe early.
Yeah, and you know, when you use the spells like that, it's even stronger than it used to be for Druid now, because you have those 2 additional threats in the Arcane Giants, and we've seen KingSlayer use them quite a bit, and every time they've looked pretty good.
I have to say, though, for Wilican, like, his draw was super awkward with regards to mana. Like, he's floating 1 mana every turn. He would love the cards to like fall in a different order.
Yeah, I got really excited for him just seeing the Fiery Bat in first turn, because he's missed 1-drops like every time with this deck. But then as it panned out further in the match, definitely looking a little bit awkward. He's just left so many mana crystals unused, and if you don't use them during the turn, you never get to use them. They just go away forever. So definitely putting him in a position. This is a turn, though, where he could potentially curve out, but he decides not to because he doesn't want to miss that steady shot. A wise decision. If he can continue to steady shot, that will just be those little extra chunks of damage. That's 2 damage that like those mana crystals, will just go away at the end of the turn.
KingSlayer picks Violet Teacher, which allows him to play both Fandral and Violet Teacher on the same board, which will make Wisps of the Old Gods really nice next turn, or just play a Giant as well. Like, he was playing around Deadly Shot before. When he swiped on turn 4, he was like, yeah, you probably have a Deadly Shot, I will not play my Fandral into that. But this plays around the Deadly Shot a bit, not playing a Giant, just playing the 2/3/5s. But then Wilican actually, at this point, I think he should go for face. Like, this is the moment where he just says, you know what, I have that kill command, I'm almost killing you, this is so much damage this turn with the steady shot, you will not come back from this.
And yeah, I mean, that is quite a bit of damage. He essentially has lethal right now in hand. He has the kill command, he has that extra 3 damage, and he has his hero power next turn. So regardless of the value and the absolute threat that Wisp of the Old Gods will be right now, summoning all those 1/1s and then buffing them up to 3/3s, that's not enough to do it.
Yeah, KingSlayer was too late, and even though he got a 2-0 lead, he knows he's dead. Like, from this perspective, like, maybe if he gets something with Vazudrake, but it's still tough. Like, he doesn't know there is a kill command in hand, but not even counting kill command, there's this 5 damage coming from steady shot and the weapon. He needs to clear his board. Can he do it? Wisps, he can't just count. He has to go for draw and find something, maybe a second swipe. Power of the Wild does not help him to clear the board even so.
This is a more fair showing, though, of the Hunter deck. Even with that awkward hand, you see just how damage over time is just going to keep chipping away and get a player in a position like this. Yeah,
and it's actually amazing that Wilican was able to reverse sweep KingSlayer with that on his Druid, and just take the first game, first match. It's they will still have to play a lot of today because we have a round robin in this group, so Group A. But Wilican is the first to win and get that 1 win under his belt in this round robin.
So what do you think of each of these players' lineups, though, going into the day? Because we're going to see a lot more of these decks. When I actually looked, there was a mid-range Hunter that someone else is running that does have the N'Zoth. Obviously, we're going to see quite a bit of Warlock. We're going to see quite a bit of Yagg.